All right, folks, it's time. We're going through the rest of the Oscar categories in this video. We talked acting and who's going to win for Best Director in yesterday's part one, and I knew that was going to be a long one, so today we're going to keep the technical categories at a reasonable length and hopefully spend a lot of time determining Best Picture and Best International Feature, which may feature a surprise win from me. So I need your thoughts and comments down below. Now, my favorite comment in today's video, I'm going to shout you out in my live Oscar reaction that won't technically be live, but I'll be reacting live. So if you enjoy it, drop a like on this video. If I get enough likes, like 500 or so, I may crank out a which movies do I prefer video, basically giving you the ones that I would pick in each category. My personal favorites, do that Sunday morning. But my favorite comment from yesterday's video, first off, shout out to a friend of man who threatened me, Austin, if you don't pick this comment, Emilia Perez will win Best Picture. Well, God, we can't have that happen. But the real one is, I made a bet with my dad that if Adrien Brody wins Best Actor, he'd walk our dog every single night for a year, and vice versa if Chalamet wins. TJ, I have a feeling you're going to win that bet, and I have a feeling Dad is going to have to walk that dog. That was an awesome comment. Made me laugh, and, friendly betting. Always fun. As always, with some of these categories, we're going to take a look at the Kalshi markets to see where everything is trending, and that's where I want to start for Best Picture. According to Kalshi, Nora has a 62% chance to win Best Picture, with Conclave in second, The Brutalist in third, and beyond that, complete unknown, Emilia Perez. Doesn't matter. It's a three-horse race. But I do find it interesting. You go back to early February, The Brutalist had a 46% chance, Nora a 22% chance. Things really shifted. And you all remember when that happened, when Sean Baker gets DGA, when Nora gets PGA, when it wins the Critics' Choice Award for Best Picture without having won another award. Like, you could look at that and perceive it as a bad thing, like, oh, I didn't win anything else. It should have won director, should have won this, should have won that. But man, it still was able to overcome those negatives by winning Best Picture and then crushing it the rest of the week. Also winning WGA, and those are all like such lethal combinations. And then we get into the BAFTA, which, I could look at the Conclave BAFTA win as a huge deal, and in a way, it's a big deal. And that voting body, even though being more international, it's an industry voting body. And so the industry going with Conclave, and I believe if Conclave would have won PGA, because that kind of makes the most sense, right? Conclave wins PGA, then it goes on and wins the BAFTA, and surprises me, not everybody else, but me, at SAG. But I look at these wins with Conclave over the last little bit, and if you pick them apart, they kind of make sense without me going on to say it's going to win Best Picture, right? Conclave wins at the BAFTA. Conclave is a British film. I thought Conclave was going to win casting and Best British Film. Nora was going to pull out Best Film. That didn't happen, but Nora surprised there with casting. And so that, for me, was like, okay. And then Nora came in clutch with some other awards at the BAFTA, when, for a second, I thought if it doesn't win Best Film, it could get shut out in its entirety. Oh, it'll get Screenplay. Didn't even get Screenplay there, but it won for casting. And so that is an industry award that I find to be a big deal. No, it's not as big as Best Film at the BAFTAs, but again, Conclave is a British film. It's the British awards body. And so you tie those two things together. The real player here is SAG. Conclave winning SAG should push Conclave to truly make this a two-horse race. But then I start to parse that apart. Conclave winning SAG makes a lot of sense because it is truly an ensemble movie. And what I mean by that is, even though I picked Nora has a couple of standout performances, but really you look at Mikey Madison carrying that movie. The Brutalist has a couple of standout performances, but really you look at Adrien Brody carrying that movie. For the award that SAG has, Best Ensemble, Conclave makes a lot of sense because, and I think I'll get pushback on this, that's fine, I don't think Ralph Fiennes carries this film. I don't think John Lithgow carries this film, Stanley Tucci. They all work in unison to make for, and this makes a lot of sense, one of the better ensembles of the year. Is it as good as Dune? No. But no one agrees with me on that, apparently, in these voting bodies. So it makes a lot of sense for it to win ensemble. Outside of it, oh, well, it won ensemble, it's going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. It could. Okay, it's not out of it at all. And honestly, I think this 62-26 here, I believe that on Kalshi is a little low. If I were looking to make a splash in the betting markets, I would look at Conclave for Best Picture, because that 26% chance is going to equate to a nice payout if you're able to win this. And it's not so far out of the race that I'm going to sit back and go, Conclave is dead, it's done, it's not happening. The Brutalist would make for a great payout, but if you're asking me, I would not put money on The Brutalist. The Brutalist, to me, is all but out of this race. Now, if we're watching the Oscar ceremony, Brody gets it done. You've got Brady Corbet that comes in. It's Corbet, by the way. Somebody was yelling at me. It's Corbet, okay? Unless it's not. But I've looked at a lot of interviews, and unless all of them were embarrassing themselves in front of the door, it's Corbet. And this is how it works, right? On Oscar night, everything changes. It's all shifting. You're going with the flow. And if things are going in that direction, Corbet wins director. I'm going to sit back and go, okay, maybe The Brutalist is not out of it. But I've seen a lot of these anonymous. We did a video on the anonymous voters, and a lot of them are just like, I didn't finish Dune. I didn't even want to watch Dune. If I'm not finishing that, I'm not finishing The Brutalist. And I just think too many people have sticks up their asses.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
That's just how it is with these Oscar voters. And so I believe The Brutalist is a distant third to a very close second in Conclave. But I'm sticking with Honora. I still believe Honora gets it done. I believe Honora is in first place. Let's move on to Best Adapted Screenplay, and we'll get this one out of the way quick. This is going to be Conclave. Almost everywhere that Conclave has been eligible and has been nominated, Conclave has won. Now, there have been a couple of awards where Nickel Boys comes in and gets it done, and I do wish a movie like Sing Sing would get more talk, get more hype. And this is a category that is going to work in the favor of Conclave for Best Picture, but we kind of already know it's going to work in its favor. It's not like the other screenplay category where something crazy could happen, like The Substance or A Real Pain, and then it throws a wrench into the entire night. And so this is why I think a lot of people have Conclave in good graces in general, because they're guaranteed to win this award, and I think they're favored for a couple of other awards. And so this one's a biggie. Conclave's going to get it done. If there is a second place, it would be Nickel Boys. It's not happening. Let's move on. Now we have Best Original Screenplay. And again, this one's tough because I thought The Substance was, kind of making it interesting when it won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Screenplay. I'm like, okay, that's not what I expected to happen because, again, Honora goes winless that night and then wins Best Picture. But again, you have to think of the Critics' Choice as there is a distinction between the two bodies of voters. Critics' Choice, my crew, because I was a voter, gave Best Director to John M. Chu, who wasn't even nominated for an Oscar. And so this is one of the first huge shocking things like that I've ever seen with Critics' Choice. But again, it's not even close to falling in line with the Oscars, so I'm not going to rule out The Substance. I think it's got a shot, but I am going to look more so at A Real Pain and Honora. Because for a long time, A Real Pain was the movie being talked about to play spoiler for Honora in screenplay. It's just, and not that these two things correlate, and you all know this as big as I'm making it seem, but A Real Pain getting snubbed for Best Picture is a big deal. Sean Baker getting DGA, WGA, like all of the things that you need to get along with a lot of screenplay precursors is a big deal for Honora. It's got the Best Picture nom. It was and is still regarded as one of the best scripts of the year. And A Real Pain, while it did surprise at the BAFTAs, I believe it surprised a lot of people at the BAFTAs, I don't know if that's going to correlate as much as some of these other, granted, more local wins. Maybe the international field is a little different, and how they're going to play into the final Oscar vote may make it a closer race than maybe we expect. Well, let's phrase it more like this. How about Honora being the favorite for Best Picture is somewhat detrimental to A Real Pain. And so because Honora is the favorite, and it needs one of these categories, whether it be director or screenplay, not as much Mikey Madison, but it needs director or screenplay, because I don't think it's getting editing, spoiler for that category. So Honora's got to have one of these. If I'm guaranteeing one, I would guarantee this even over director. Because while the DGA win is huge, Corbet has been a name in this race. I'd say more so than A Real Pain is in this race for screenplay. And so I'm saying Honora gets it done. Honora wins screenplay. Again, falling in line with people big time. It's interesting. The Culture markets actually disagree with me on second place, saying The Substance has a better chance. And, you know, in my heart, I want The Substance to have a great chance. But Culture's giving it a 20% chance. Honora, 63, A Real Pain, 17. So that number 2 spot is a close race. Now, if we go back to the beginning of February, it was a lot closer. The Substance being at a 26.6% chance. But in reality, this is just Honora's category to lose. I truly believe that. And if it gets it done here and in director, Best Picture is going to be looking really good. Let's go into documentary. I'm usually not as into this field, and not that I don't like documentaries. That is not the case. My wife would kill me if she heard me say that. It's more so this is not the part of the awards race that I keep up with. And so what I'm about to say is more so my opinion rather than something that I could claim to be as factual as the other statements that I give you in this video. Did that even make sense? I don't know if it did. My 2 movies here to pay attention to are No Other Land and Porcelain War. Now, No Other Land has won a huge chunk of the awards across the board. It's grossed a lot of money. The U.S. distribution, I believe, is still a little fuzzy. I don't even know if it's premiered in the U.S. technically. And it's a film about Palestinians resisting Israeli forces. It kind of dives deep into that side of the political spectrum. And you could say, Austin, well, that's not politics. Well, yeah, but I'm approaching this in the way that a voter would approach it, right? But then I think of voters, and I think of Israel-Palestine, and I think of how, and it's not going to be extremely split, but that could split some people down the middle if they feel strongly on the opposition side to the documentary. That could really affect the voting here for it to win. And not that there is a strong second place contender, but Porcelain War is, from what the feel that I'm getting, a lot of people's second place movie. I go over to Culshi, and the entire time, as you can see, it has been No Other Land's award, but I look at this recent trend from, it looks like the end of January to now. Over the course of February, Porcelain War has kind of moved its way up this list. And one thing that betting and trading markets can tell us is kind of the feel that people are getting for these movies. And if we see an upward trend, like we are in a certain other category we're about to talk about, that is something we should pay attention to. And I just think of all of the Academy voters. Are all of them? Definitely not. Are most of them going to vote for No Other Land when that is such a touchy subject, and it's not going to be for some people, but it will be for others? I don't know. Porcelain War being kind of the underdog here, but a movie that is on an upward trajectory. And documentary, this is what I want to say most, is always insane. Like the Superman doc, which is my favorite doc of last year, along with Will and Harper, won the BAFTA. We can rule out any of these other ones that haven't really been talked about. Look at these top 2. Culshi has No Other Land at a 56% chance. I agree, but I'm going for the underdog. Now, Porcelain War could also fit in that political category, about a trio of artists near the front lines of the war in Ukraine. But that, I think, is a story that's a little easy. It's an easier pill to swallow for voters rather than dealing with something that feels what some voters could perceive as untouchable. And I believe Porcelain War has gotten more love from the guilds than No Other Land. That is still kind of the champion in terms of wins, but I am going the underdog. I've got to go the underdog somewhere. I may do it in one other category, but I'm saying No Other Land loses. Porcelain War wins. International feature film. Now I wanna push to the side all the preliminaries. I want to push to the side the 13 Emilia Perez nominations. Austin, of course you can't do that. That definitely matters. You're an insane person if you don't pay attention. Okay, all right, fine. It got 13 noms. Emilia Perez keeps winning international feature, foreign film, whatever you want to call it. It continues to rack up awards and has continued to rack up awards. But you look at what's happened over the recent weeks, from the controversy to everything going on with Carla Sofia Gascon, to a little bit of the AI drama, which I also believe is affecting The Brutalist, and, we know about that. And I think about I'm Still Here being a movie that had a last-second surge, good enough to get it into the Best Picture field. If I'm Still Here wasn't a Best Picture nominee, I would not project it to win International Feature, obviously, because you're going to pick the one that got the best pick. Okay, that's easy to say, right? But then you look at Fernanda Torres. And while I don't think Fernanda Torres is going to win Best Actress, she's at least sort of in the conversation, but her performance was good enough to elevate that to a Best Picture nomination as well. So there is a standout part of this movie that has at least made a splash on that front. I'm Still Here being a movie that has just been trending over the last several weeks in the right direction. And look at how the ballots work. The preferential ballot system of I'm Still Here getting enough love, enough number one votes or 2 votes probably, to put it above a movie like A Real Pain, which a lot of people thought had a good chance, a movie like Sing Sing, which a lot of people thought had a good chance. And then think about all the people who didn't see I'm Still Here before it got nominated for Best Picture. Still managed to get in because I guarantee it had a ton of number one votes. And now that it has made that splash and is making so much noise in Brazil, people are going to check it out. People are going to see it. And what about those who were unsure about Emilia Perez to start with? Do you not think that maybe if they wouldn't have watched I'm Still Here, probably just would have said, I'm going to vote for it anyway, because I don't... Apparently, with these anonymous votes, Oscar voters don't care as much, so they're just going to pick the favorite, the movie that got 13 nominations. But you've got a film in I'm Still Here that got a Best Picture nomination. People are finally seeing it, finally talking about it. It is tied for the highest rated movie of the year on Letterboxd and on Rotten Tomatoes, and there is no division in the fandom whatsoever. You either like it or love it, but no one is drastically hating this movie on the level of Emilia Perez, which has a lot of people loving it, obviously, but then the people who don't love it, they kind of hate it. And so there's really not a lot of in between for Emilia Perez. The people who love I'm Still Here, even if they don't love it, they still probably like I'm Still Here. And I have a feeling a lot of the voters are watching it now. Well, for the most part. Again, we've seen how dumb they are with Dune and The Brutalist not watching it because it's too long. But it's not a 3-hour film, right? I'm Still Here is on the perfect trajectory to come in at the last second and take Best International Feature. Because I've never seen a frontrunner for this category, or really any category, that is so divisive. Divisive. People hate Emilia Perez. People despise Emilia Perez. And then the ones who love it really love it. So they really love Emilia Perez. And what happens when those votes start to split, when you're getting those final votes tallied for the Oscars? You've got all the people who love Emilia Perez, but then the ones who don't love it are going to go vote for I'm Still Here. The ones who hate it are going to go vote for I'm Still Here. The one who just got around to I'm Still Here and maybe voted for Emilia Perez before are probably voting for I'm Still Here now. And all of those factors, I'm going to push the preliminaries, and this is going to be one of the only categories I do this for, to the side and say I'm Still Here wins. Now, obviously the betting markets right now agree with me. They're at 62%. Emilia Perez still at 40%, which is really good. But I think it's a lot closer than that. I think it's more 55-45 rather than 62-41. Again, that doesn't add up, but we have to think about the betting markets. They're always shifting. They're trying to get the numbers right. So many people love this movie. So many people are passionate for this movie. I believe that is a rare case where it impacts and inflates the betting markets on a level. But you also got to think about it this way. A lot of people are going for I'm Still Here. And we can kind of look here. Just about 10 days ago, it was the underdog at 34%, Emilia Perez at 58%. We can look at the betting market, how many people have went for the underdog. It's insane. Animated feature film, one could perceive this is similar. And okay, you know what? It is similar to last year, Spider-Verse The Boy and the Heron, I had Spider-Verse all the way, and then at the last second, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. But The Boy and the Heron won. A lot of people could chalk that up to it being a strong international contender, Spider-Verse being, a part of a bigger story, didn't tell a full and complete story. I think all of those things are a factor, but the biggest factor there was the wide-scale acclaim for the director and how that love needed to be given to him for winning that award. And not that Boy and the Heron's a bad film, but I think that was the biggest narrative, right? Well, Flow doesn't quite have a narrative that strong. It is a very strong international contender with plenty of preliminary wins, maybe not quite as many in the grand scheme of things as The Wild Robot, but I'd say it has been coming on stronger as of late, which is a big deal. We talk about surges, we talk about trends. Looking at the Culture market, 68% for The Wild Robot, Flow at 34%, basically the only two contenders here. And there were points where it was very close between the two, but it feels like, for a while at least, it was The Wild Robot being the big dog. And I still believe it is the big dog. The Wild Robot getting nominated in other categories was kind of the big thing for me. And I know Flow got international, but it has been getting international, and frankly, overall, international wasn't as strong this year as it has been in other years, and Flow being a strong contender there. And I believe it won international at the Indie Spirit Awards recently. Okay, that's a fairly big deal, I'll give it that, but this is not the same as Spider-Verse. And you all know how much I love Spider-Verse, one of my favorite animated films of the last decade. But this is a complete story. It's not a sequel. It's not a superhero movie. It is wholly and entirely original. I mean, based on source material, but it's an original feeling animated film with the big budget, with the mass acclaim, made a ton of money, crushed at the box office, and basically is part of what is reviving DreamWorks right now. It's also overcoming the Pixar Disney beast, which hasn't been as big of a beast as of late. And Flow is that, independent, very original, all the things that I said about A Wild Robot, but less acclaim, less love across the board. Wild Robot gets SAG. Wild Robot wins some of the big ones, as does Flow. But I don't see Flow being as strong of a contender as The Boy and the Heron last year. And with the crossover into not international categories like Flow, but into sound and score. Like, I didn't think it was going to get a sound nomination. So they clearly love it. I mean, they love both movies, but I'm going to say A Wild Robot, or The Wild Robot with a the, takes this award. It's closer than what the markets perceive it to be, but at the end of the day, I love The Wild Robot so much. So editing is actually really tough because a lot of the times you want to give editing to what you perceive to be the Best Picture winner. That's not going to be the case for me this year. I don't look at Anora and see a movie that shines through its editing. And then I look at some of the common complaints about Anora, and these are complaints that I don't see as much in a film like Conclave. It feels a little lengthy in the middle, and they could have shaved some time off of the end. And Conclave being as slow-paced as it is, one that is paced well for the story that they're telling, and it's very consistent all throughout, whereas Anora does. I mean, I much prefer Anora as a movie. Anora does slow down in parts and doesn't have that consistency, but neither movie is flashy. And that's what gets me about this category this year. Like, normally you've got the big flashy edited things, and like a Wicked, like Amelia Perez, that do feel a little more on the flashy side, those being musicals, and a lot of the times you have a big music-based movie being the headliner of the editing category if it's not going to the Best Picture winner. But this year, those are the two that are getting no love whatsoever in terms of wins. And so I can't help but to say those are even behind a movie like The Brutalist, which also isn't getting the love that I expected to get. If this was a month ago, I would have said The Brutalist is taking this because looking at these nominees, The Brutalist is by far the best edited movie, but I don't believe that's the case anymore. And with one of the main editing award ceremonies this year being after the Oscars, really, we've got to look at the BAFTA, and I get it, it's a British film, and but those voting bodies do intersect, and Conclave has gotten some love elsewhere in editing, and Conclave seems to be the movie that people are responding to with editing. Now, is this going to help it? Technically, is winning editing going to help it become, or for some, remain, a Best Picture frontrunner or contender in my book. Yes, absolutely. And so I'm almost going against myself for Best Picture here because I got Nora winning Best Picture. I should go Nora, but I'm going Conclave. But you also look at the movies and it just, I feel as if it makes a little more sense to go with a film like Conclave that doesn't have flashy editing, but is just a better paced, more consistent movie with the type of story that it's telling, rather than a Nora, which is a little flashier, but also maybe a little more inconsistent on that front. And so I guess I'm going with the BAFTA winner here. Don't really know what other direction to take it. Nora was much stronger of a contender. Looking at, just a week ago, it was a stronger contender. But I'm going Conclave for film editing. This year, I'm calling my shot. I'm saying it does not intersect with the Best Picture winner. All right, so a few days back, the American Society of Cinematographers picked their winner. And the winner was Maria. I can't do it. I can't choose Maria for the Oscar. It's too far out of the realm of possibility in my brain for an upset like that to happen. So if you're expecting me to go with ASC, it's not happening. Now, I look at the two movies that are in contention here and just the amount of nominations between each. Nosferatu is surprising me, man. I thought for sure Dune Part 2 would get those coveted nominations in all of these places, but it's really been Nosferatu with the BAFTA, the BSC, the CCA, and obviously ASC not getting the win. Nosferatu got the win at Critics' Choice, but that's not as prevalent of an overlapping body as what BAFTA and BSC is. Those were two huge wins for a movie like The Brutalist, and if The Brutalist is going to win any of these categories other than Adrian Brody, I have to be super confident in cinematography. Not only do you watch The Brutalist and you're like, yeah, that's pretty magnificent across the board. Some of these shots, some of the shot selection is just admirable and honestly astonishing while you're watching. But for the BAFTA to go in the direction of The Brutalist was fairly big. For ASC not to give it to one of the bigger contenders, for it to go Maria. Now, would I have felt better if it was Brutalist? Yes, absolutely. So I can't go with Maria, guys. I just can't do it. I think this comes down to Nosferatu, The Brutalist. I believe The Brutalist gets it done. Just more preliminaries that are a little more prominent, and honestly, it's kind of just been the front runner throughout this entire awards season. I don't see that changing. Production design, costume design, these are easy. These are runaway victories. It has been Wicked all the way through. And even when I thought it wasn't going to be Wicked, I think it was, where was it? Was it BAFTA? Yeah, it was BAFTA, because I thought they wouldn't love Wicked as much as they did. Wicked's always been that in costume design this entire season, but for production design, I expected BAFTA to go in a different direction. It didn't. And so Wicked, folks, Wicked's going to win 2 Oscars. Maybe more. There's a world where it wins more, but 2 Oscars, production design, costume design. Mark it down. I believe it's happening, and it's a pretty big deal. Makeup and hairstyling, another one that we don't have to spend a lot of time on. It has been the substance all the way through, like the entire season. It's huge not only for the substance getting an Oscar win, it's also huge for the substance getting another potential Oscar win in Demi Moore, because you often see these two categories align. I think they're going to this year. There's no chance, quote me on it, no chance the substance doesn't win this award. Visual effects, another easy one all the way through. Even when you think maybe the BAFTA is going to go in a different direction, oh man, they could go with a Better Man because they really love a Better Man. No, it's still Dune. Dune's going to win visual effects. I also believe Dune's going to win sound. Now, sound becomes a little more interesting, especially when you look at the amount of nominations, because both Dune Part 2 and Wicked being a musical, Wicked being a big blockbuster, they both got nominated in 4 major awards ceremonies, except Wicked was only able to take 1 of those. Dune was able to take 3 of those, one of them being BAFTA, one of them being AMPS. The BAFTA was the big one. Again, sometimes we overlook the BAFTAs as, oh, well, it's just the British Oscars, but a lot of that does carry over, and that being kind of the biggest one out of all of them. I mean, A Complete Unknown did manage to win Cinema Audio Society, which was kind of shocking, a little surprising, But it's been such a distant third this entire awards season. I don't know if I can look at that CAS win and say, yes, that's going to allow it to overcome a movie like Dune, which is known for the way it looks, the visual effects, the way that sound just comes out of those speakers sitting in an IMAX theater and just melts your face, man. And so because of that, I've got Dune Part 2 winning Best Sound. Score, I've got The Brutalist, the Society of Composers and Lyricists, the BAFTA, just a score that has been so prominent this awards season, on top of The World, pretty much. The big competitor here, for me at least, would probably be Conclave, even though Emilia Perez and The Wild Robot have gotten plenty of nominations themselves. But Conclave hasn't managed to get any of the victories, and that duo combination that The Brutalist has going into this night, I'm feeling pretty confident. I genuinely believe it is one of the best scores of the year, and thankfully people are seeing that. So, kind of forgot about score a while ago. Another win for The Brutalist. Original song. Is El Mal strong enough with the Critics' Choice win, the Golden Globe win, to overcome Diane Warren? To overcome Elton John? I think so. Look, if Emilia Perez is going to win anything beyond Zoe Saldana, it's going to be song. It has been just far and away the front runner for quite some time, but then you're looking at these anonymous ballots like, oh, I love Diane Warren. She's got to win. I literally read this. She's got to win one eventually, so I'm going to vote for her. I'm like, that's not the reason to vote for someone. And that movie's not very good as well. So both of these movies stink. But then you look at the Elton John song. People love Elton John. And so is Emilia Perez strong enough to overcome two all-time artists? No, but I think this song is. El Mal seems to be the talk of the town in Best Song. I don't get it. I'll never get it. I don't understand it. Both of the songs are bleh. I guess one is better than the other. I'll leave that up to your interpretation, which one I believe is better than the other. But honestly, man, this is one of those you could see a surprise here just because of the names involved with the other songs. But I think El Mal gets it done. I've got to give Emilia Perez its flowers somewhere outside of Best Supporting Actress, and it's not going to be International Feature, so I guess it's going to be Best Song. If you're looking for my predictions for shorts, for the Best Shorts categories, go over to Awards Expert. I've got those lined out. Awards Expert, I mean, it's a great place. Brother Bro, you're crushing it. Both of you all. Oscar Expert, Brother Bro. Thanks for that. Thanks for allowing us to just talk about this. I mean, I've talked for so long, I don't even know where I'm at. Got some fun things down the pipeline, man. We're doing best and worst of February before the Oscars ceremony, and I told you I would love to give you my personal winners in each category. If you want to see that, drop that like down below. Leave a comment. Make sure you keep following along this channel because Sunday night, it's all going down. If you are confident in yourself, in terms of your predictions, go over to Kalshi, see where the markets are. Let me know what is your biggest upset prediction of the night. Appreciate it big time, and I'll see you soon.